this course in Jesus' name. God, give us ears to hear, give us eyes to see. Lord, I pray for a spirit of participation. I just pray that we could grow together, that we could learn from one another. God, my prayer for this course is that people would be empowered to take the next step in writing in Jesus' name. And Lord, we know that in a course like this with 9 people on the internet, we can easily be distracted and somebody's going to lose the internet connection. I just pray you give them grace to come back on and to really get as much out of it as possible. In Jesus' precious name, amen.
Amen.
Well, let's just go. Why don't we just have a little introduction of your name, where you are, and not so much why you want to write, but why did you come to this course? I mean, what do you want to get out of this course? And then we'll go a little bit more in depth later about why you want to write, let's say. So don't talk so much about that. Just kind of like what has drawn you to the course. So name, where you are, and what has drawn you to the course. Okay, let's start with Margie.
Hi, I'm Margie Clayton from Beaumont, Texas. Down here, still suffering from Harvey effects.
Wow.
And I'm interested in the course, first of all, because Dr. Joel was one of my guiding professors doing a small group course. So when I saw this come about on my email, I'm interested in it because I'm at my dissertation phase, and I just need help with writing. So I'm here and glad to meet all of you.
Glad that you are with it, Margie. God bless you. Excited to have you in this course. Loved being with you in that course there at BH Carroll. That's where she's doing her dissertation. Okay, let's go next with Roberto.
Hello all, my name is Roberto Munguia. I am in San Jose, California. It's just like 45 minutes out of San Francisco. I do want to write first because there's a huge lack of writers in the Spanish-speaking world that are high quality. So that's one of the reasons. And why with Joel, because I met him, probably he doesn't remember, but I met you, Joel, in Guatemala back in either 2000 or 2001. You went there for a conference in Iglesia Amistad Cristiana. And I attended that conference. I met you there. Then I met you in a symposium that Ralph Neighbor did in Waco, Texas. So I have all your books. I like the way you write. So I guess I can learn something from you.
Well, I'm humble, brother. And, I did go to your site. I did see your face. So I do remember you. But that puts some pieces together. So I'm so glad you're in this course. And I love what you're saying about the Spanish world. Very exciting. So glad you're in this course. David.
David Gainey. I've been a pastor of a church I planted 21 years ago here in Tucson, Arizona. And it's a cell-based church. And Jim Corley, when he brought in Joe Comiskey to be an advisor and consultant to him, I kind of hopped along for the ride. And that's how I'm involved. And I'm currently working on a doctor of ministry at Gateway Seminary in California, and this class is working as a specialist seminar. What was the last question?
How do I know you? Let's say what drew you to this course. You basically answered that, and then I'm going to be asking in just a minute about why writing for you. So you don't have to answer that right now. Just kind of a general introduction right now. You've said everything. David is so excited during this course. David and I, we go back a ways. Jim, there's so many great memories. David, we were there. I was there in Tucson like every month for several years. So yeah. I'm so thrilled that you're here. That's great. Michael Crow, go ahead.
Yes, Michael Crow. I'm in Beijing. I've known Joel since around 1998 when we were doing our PhD work together at Fuller. Why am I interested in this course? I've been developing a curriculum called J Mentors for a number of years now, and I'm getting to the point where I need to get it published, and I want to do something online with that. And so, yeah, and it will be in English and Chinese.
Awesome, awesome. Those were wonderful apartment times, weren't they, Michael?
Yeah, we had great times together. I love the little. We had a little study group together, and we had a great time together.
Yeah, that's right. And I hope you can also share your testimony sometime, Michael, about what you went through, and just overcoming cancer and so on and so forth. So that's a real powerful. I was, by the way, reviewing that and just amazed at what you've been through, and so just excited that you're doing so well. Amari, yeah, praise God, thank God. Amari.
Yes, I was introduced to your ministry a long time ago in Miami, the Cell Church, and since then I have been following the ministry, the emails. I have bought a lot of your books, so I got the email about the class that you were going to offer, and I said to myself, I need to join this because as someone mentioned, I enjoy your writing, and I know if you are doing it, it is gonna be good.
Awesome. Where are you, Amari?
I'm right now in North Carolina. I am originally from Dominican Republic.
Okay, that's right. And you're with the Northern Baptist or the Southern Baptist?
The Southern Baptist Convention. I work with the state convention. We have about 4,300 churches.
Okay.
Over 100 of them are Hispanic, and as Roberto I think mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of writing in Spanish. The best we can do is probably translation, but we have a huge need. So,
Amari, do you feel like you would first write in Spanish, or do you feel like you would write in English first?
I write in English right now more than I do in Spanish, but I am far more comfortable in Spanish, obviously. If I can write in Spanish, that would be my preference, my native tongue. So I will go that route if I can.
Excelente, mi hermano. Very, very good. Great. And then how about Dale?
How you doing?
Good to see you, Dale.
Good to be here. I'm from Michigan. Why I'm here? Because you send emails all the time. I use a lot of your small group material, so I'm trying to just transfer to a new ministry. And part of that ministry is small groups. So just been using your material books and trying to get people, leaders anyway, to understand what we're doing and where we're going and how we're going to try to accomplish that at a local body. So part of this for me is over the years, primarily student ministry. So their encouragement, you really need to write this stuff down. I've heard that for a number of years. So that's why I'm here.
Dale, boy, I really hope we can help you on this, just writing stuff down. So glad you're here, Dale. And so that's wonderful. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because, Dale, I see owner on your site. Does everybody else see owner connected to Dale?
Yeah, I see it. I switched my computer. This is my nicer computer.
Dale, if you just click on your screen, this is Helen. I'm a Zoom guru. You can it'll bring up an option for you to rename. You'll see an option that says rename, like little buttons.
Gotcha.
And you can just change your name.
Super. Okay, super. I think we'll see Dale. There we boy, Dale's a quick learner. Good job, Dale. That's great. And so I'm going to unmute Maria. And Maria, let's see. Okay, I'm trying to unmute Maria. Let's just see if I can do that. There. Okay, yep. I did. Very good. Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead and share, Maria, about yourself, and so on and so forth.
Well, I live in Venezuela. I have to be honest, I didn't know very well why I am in this course because it's a little exciting about publication. I never thought about it before, but I like to learn, and I thought that writing was a very good subject for me. I write in English, but not very well. So I would like to learn to write better in English. And I see this like an opportunity to learn, and maybe why not to publish some subject, because I have been asking for direction to God, a new purpose and new objectives. So I see this like an opportunity coming from God.
Maria, I am so thrilled that you can be here. Venezuela is a place that's really on my heart. I've been there a number of times and praying for you guys, and just thrilled that you're here, Maria. God bless you. It seems like we have a great connection here. I'm really thrilled. All of you are connected well, can hear you well. Helen and Jim took the course last time, and they're back for more punishment. So thrilled to have them. They're kind of my assistants, and Helen is a Zoom guru, so I'll be leaning on her. Jim has been in a course that we had offline at Tozer Seminary. Helen, go ahead and introduce yourself and anything you want to share.
My name is Helen Barada. I currently live on the island of Hawaii, the one where the lava is flowing, but I'm safe. No problem. We live in a safe zone, so no issue. I met Joel. He mentored my pastor when I lived in Pittsburgh for 19 years. I came to Christ through a small group, and our church grew tremendously through small groups. And so Steve Cordell was my pastor. He is in the Joel Comiskey group and writes in you've read probably some of his emails. I eventually worked my way through small groups and went through training and was on staff at my church as the small group director at my church in Pittsburgh. At the same time, I found a Christian weight loss program called First Place, and I lost 116 pounds. And so I wrote a book called Restored, Embracing Weight Loss God's Way, and I tell my story as if God refinished me like a floor, how you refinish a wood floor. And so I didn't have this book when I took this course 2 years ago. I was in the, 75% stage, I would say, kind of like, I'd only been revised twice stage. So if anybody that wrote a book, there was many more stages to go. But this course, like you, I read the emails, read a lot of Joel's books, schooled by Joel writing. I know him through his writing. And so anyway, this course really gave me the confidence to self-publish. And so I'm happy it came out last July, and I'm selling books. It's all good.
Great job, Helen. And you guys got to read this book, because Helen really pours herself out. Great testimony, really, in the book. I was very touched by the book, and so just a great book there. Jim, go ahead and share.
Yes, my name is Jim Corley. I'm sitting in the church library here in Sweet Home, Oregon. I've known Joel for many years. I first met him when he was working on his dissertation. We've been together in Ohio, California, Arizona many times, Moscow, Russia a couple of times. So, and every time I've taken your class, Joel, I've been inspired and encouraged to put out another book. So I'm motivated.
Jim, I need to pay you a lot of money for your recommendations. Thank you. Jim has really been like a sponsor, mentor in many ways. When I was at a desperate time, Jim really sponsored me to be a coach among the Alliance, and kind of got me a whole new realm of pastors to coach. And so, he's just been an incredible sponsor in my own life. So Jim, thank you so much for taking this course. And Jim actually was in a course, an offline course, where we were together 40 hours, this same course called Writing for Publication, which was so much better because we were meeting, 8 hours a day, and everyone could talk, and we brought in people from the outside. This course is somewhat canned in a sense. It's very reduced. It's online. The other course was a master's level course that, students that had to take the course, they paid a lot of money to take the course. It was Tozer Seminary. And so it was just a different situation where you guys don't have to be here. You don't have to do any of the homework. And so we've only done this type one other time, and Helen and Jim were there. And to be honest with you, most people that took it didn't do much of the homework, to be honest with you. And so it was just a different situation. So we're just trying to adapt to this course. And really, you will get out of this course as much as you put into it. I hope you'll be here each time. You'll show up because the reality is that we will send you the link anyway. Even if you don't show up, we'll send you the recording. As you can tell, we're recording right now. I'd like to make this course a bit participatory. One thing I learned from the last course is that I don't think it was as participatory enough. So we're going to try to give you guys a chance to speak more and to share what you're learning and also ask questions. So we'll try to make it as participatory as possible. You have the books here. Writing Power, great book. I'm just sharing with you books that I love and that have really impacted me. Helen, you're nodding your head. Was this book important to you?
Yeah, that book was so important. I used to live in Pennsylvania. I Kindled that book. I gave away all my paperback, but I Kindled that book. And because the questions in the back that prompt you, there's 3 or 4 chapters in there that I've used over and over and over again when I'm writing articles and blogs, and when I was writing, just when I'm stuck, it really helped me. That book is just that there's a couple books that I kept aiming for Amazon. That book I read cover to cover more than once. So
yeah, this one's a very good one. This one is so good because it talks about self-publishing, traditional publishing, and small publishers. And so it really gives the gamut of your possible experience. And, I'm going to probably be sharing a lot of tips on self-publishing. I have my own publisher, CCS Publishing, but this will give you all of the experiences, including finding an agent. So this gal was an agent, I believe, in New York, but she really esteems self-publishing. So I love this book. This next book, you just got to have on your shelf. On Writing Well, it's sold 1 million copies by now. Zinzer, and this book will just really perfect your craft no matter what you're doing. I love this book. Betsy Lerner, I believe she's Jewish, but this book, this gal was an editor, an agent, and just really speaks on behalf of a writer. So you really get the experience of what a writer might go through. And then if you want extra credit, this book is the Christian imagination. You have C.S. Lewis giving a chapter. Jim, tell me, why did you like this book?
Well, because the Christian writers were distilled by the editor, and very great insight. And I want to one comment about the course. You had us like a black belt level course at the seminary, but I want to speak up and defend the course from Joel Comiskey and say it's a whole lot better than you made it sound right there. You kind of talked it down because you were talking about graduate level stuff, but this is really a helpful class.
There you go again, Jim. See, did I tell you he's my sponsor? And no, but in all reality, I think you're going to get your money's worth in this course as well. I really do. And with what Jim just said, I do want to give you a half hour of just free coaching for this, just to meet with you personally. Any email is accepted. We can go back and forth, personal emails. And I don't know if all of you are okay, and just let me ask that question right now. Are all of you okay with sharing each other's email on kind of a group email?
Yes.
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 I have to be cautious in our
Okay.
conference, and I'm actually a little concerned that you're recording this because we have security concerns here, obviously.
So, okay.
I'll just have to be careful what I say.
Okay, very good. Yeah, that's great. So we'll just be cautious as he maybe doesn't say certain things. We'll know what's going on and so forth, so on and so forth. Very good. So those are just some of the the things that we will discuss. I do want to recommend the assignments. If you do the assignments, I will grade the assignments. The sky is the limit for you. And one of my big desires is to keep this course on your level. For example, if your goal is to write articles, this is great. If your goal is to get a couple blogs out there, this is wonderful. And I just want to encourage you to take the next step. All right? Okay, very good. I do see a chat there. Okay, Jim just said, I'd like to comment on the course. By the way, did everybody see Jim's chat?
Yes.
Yes.
You all saw that. Okay, that came up on the screen. Very good. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I am going to go into screen share mode. And so in screen share mode, I'm just going to see a few people on the right, not everybody. Oh, one other thing. I'm going to take you out of, I'm going to stop screen share right now. And I just want to say this, that is that on your top right, you're going to see two views. One is speaker view and one is gallery view. Do you all see that?
Yeah.
Why don't you press each one? It's not going to, go ahead and just press speaker view and then press gallery view while I'm talking, and you're going to see a difference. And you're free to go ahead and toggle between these two views, because I think it'll just you'll kind of decide what you like best. And go ahead, Helen, do you have any comment about that as I'm doing the screen share? Let me see, there is a chat here. They nod. Okay, go ahead, Helen, comment on these two views.
Just the views, and then when Joel shares his screen, you're going to have, you'll have 3 or 4 options. You can make just Joel one picture, or you can look at 4 people at a time. So know that even when you go to share the screen, you have some options on what you can see. You can make Joel a bigger picture or a littler box. So I would just challenge you to look, like he shared his screen. There's on the little box that's there's a little completely minimized, then there's a small box, and then there's 4 little boxes. So that gives you the ability to see 4 people at a time. And then you have arrows, and you can scroll through and see everybody if you want. And then the last box is a bigger box, which is the speaker, which is probably me, since I'm talking. So you get to decide.
Hey, Helen, I'm sorry I just cut you off there. But Marjorie just did something. She started sharing her screen.
Oh, it's Marjorie sharing a screen. So you can stop. So Marjorie, you should stop share your share. We're seeing your screen instead of the other way around. So you can click the stop share button, which is the top right. Or Joel, you can start sharing your screen, which would take her screen away.
Okay, that's interesting. So somebody can just come in there. I didn't know they could do that. But how do I get control? Okay, so okay, let me just say here. Okay, now I'm sharing a screen, so that takes it away from.
That takes hers, and then you can stop share, and then if you want,
okay,
if that's your goal. I don't know what your. Yeah, I didn't realize that was Marjorie's. You're good. So you've taken back control.
I did, but how do I keep Marjorie from doing that, let's
You
say?
can't, I don't think you can. So she can't share while you're sharing, but anybody can share their screen. But we can't share if you're sharing, if that makes sense.
I will tell you what, why don't we just say as a rule, don't press share your screen.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Margie, could you just go in and say stop sharing?
No, we're seeing your screen now, Joel. So we're seeing your screen.
Right, but let's just say I say stop share. Okay, now we're back. Now we're back. Okay, very good. So the only thing is don't press, but the other views like speaker view and then
Gallery.
Gallery. So I guess between those views. Okay.
Right. And then like you said, if we get to a point where you want to show us something, we could share our screen, but traditionally, usually it's just Joel that will be sharing the screen. But at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a list of participants. You'll see, which gives you a list of participants, and then you have like a little chat bubble. And I don't think we've all used chat yet, so you may not use that. We could do our icebreaker right now, and everybody could practice using chat. You doing an icebreaker, Joel? What do you think?
Let's do that. Please give us an icebreaker.
All right. So this one is, who would you like to be for a day? And Jesus and God is off limits. Because whenever I'm in a group of Christians, everybody wants, well, maybe not want to be God or Jesus, but I'm just saying, so eliminate that. Who would you like to be for a day? And then you can go into your chat window. So for you, everybody has like a little chat bubble at the bottom of their screen. If you click on that, it brings up a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. And in the bottom right, it says type message here. And so let's see, who would I want to be? Oh yeah, Peter Wagner. Oh.
Okay, yeah, he's with the Lord. But anyway, okay, so very good.
So everybody's, you can see people's responses as they respond, and you have to hit enter. And is anybody on a tablet? If you're on a tablet, you have to touch the screen and click on participants, and then your chat bubble is at the bottom of participants. I don't know, is anybody on a tablet or mobile device? No, okay.
Okay, well, so thank you so much. And then go ahead, Helen, and ask everybody why they would want to be that.
Okay, all right. So Joel, why do you want to be Peter Wagner?
Well, he's always been like a mentor and a model for me, so that's why. But then also part of it is he's in heaven right now. It'd be great to switch places.
I see. And didn't he write one of our books?
Not one of our books. Yeah, not here.
Not here. Okay. All right. And Margie, tell us about Lavette.
Well, I would like to be 20 years younger. Well, that was off the top of my head. That's all.
Awesome.
She's a dynamic kid.
All right, Jim, how come you want to be ambassador to Egypt?
Well, because I'm working on a novel, and I think I could get to where I want to be in the Sinai if I was the ambassador.
I see. It would help solve a plot issue. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Roberto wants to be Michael Jordan. How come? That's interesting.
I really like basketball, but I do remember his reaction the first tournament of the final in a row that he won with the Chicago Bulls. His reaction after winning the first trophy. So I remember that. It's vivid in my mind. So I would like to experience that for a day.
Cool. All right, Michael. I see. I don't know. Can I say your response, or do you want to just say?
I'll just say.
Sure.
And I'll just keep it short. I wish I spoke better Chinese.
Ah, yes. Very cool. Yes. All right, Maria, a younger version of yourself.
Yeah. I think that I would like to do things that I didn't do. So maybe, I would like to recover some time.
Yeah, cool. All right. David has no idea. Have you changed your mind? Have you come up with anything, David, since you heard everybody?
No, you'd have to give me about a week.
Oh, okay. All right, Dale, it's your turn.
Daniel's always been my favorite book character in the Bible. So
Very
my son
cool.
has his name. But I like the idea of being younger too, because I'm a little sore right now.
Yeah.
What's going on? Go ahead.
Oh, no,
What's
just
sore?
working outside.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I picked Esther. I always like strong women characters. So in movies and stuff, and she's a good, strong Bible character. So Esther, something, I don't know, cool. And, you know, who doesn't want to be beautiful and save the world?
Thank you so much, Helen. I think we've covered everybody then.
I don't know.
No, Amari
didn't go. Mari, do you have an answer?
I have no idea, guys. You have to give me some time to think about it.
All right. Well, maybe next week. Maybe I'll tell Joel what the icebreaker is next week, and he can put it in the email to us so you can think about it for those of you guys that need to contemplate.
I'm too slow.
No problem, Amari. No big deal. Okay, super. So right now, we're going to give you the option of muting or not muting, just because if you want to mute yourself, that's okay. And then you can unmute if you have a comment or a question, or you could use the chat feature. You know, I do want this course to be participatory. And so we're going to give you the option of those two things. So Jim just said, I'm muted. Yeah, and I can see the various possibilities there. I will mute you if you're making a lot of noise, but we're going to try. I want this course to actually be a little bit more participatory, so you can decide what you want to do. You can unmute yourself or mute while I'm talking. Very good. Now, I am going to go into share screen mode and just talk a little bit about, you probably have these PowerPoints here. Why writing? As I think of my testimony, and let me actually go a little bit farther back. You got these PowerPoints just looking at my family. Don't I have a beautiful family? Can I hear one amen? Praise the Lord. Yeah, thank you so much.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Helen. Praise God. Yeah, I'm really blessed. We were just in Washington and saw my grandchild. And so just really, really blessed. David Gainey said, indeed. So bless my daughter, my oldest, who has the baby, is living in Washington. I have two daughters living here in La Mirada area, graduates from Biola. And so we're here in Moreno Valley. That's where I am living. Here are my children selling my books in Ecuador, praise the Lord. They were missionaries. We were missionaries in Ecuador for 11 years. Many of you know me from there. I speak Spanish. So that has been an added blessing to sell books in Spanish. Now, I write in English, and that was one of the key reasons for returning to the United States, because I really did feel like God was calling me to write, and I knew that I needed to write in English. So my books are translated into Spanish. Here I am before I got saved, a little more hair. You can see that. But Jesus saved me when I was 17. This is actually on the right-hand side. You can see my mom's house. My mom still lives there. And this was the first small group I led. And really, it's interesting. I share this because God called me into small group ministry. And that was a part of my life that really I can look back at and see that God was speaking to me, and he put me in that small group. And so I began to write about that passion. But, I did begin to realize, wow, I love speaking. So speaking began to be a very important priority in my life. I was on the speech team in college, And, I was open to be a missionary, but I really wanted to speak. The pastorate before going to Ecuador was a very important role for me because I could speak every Sunday. And I loved that. But when I was in Ecuador, I had a chance to speak and I remember I would spend 40 hours preparing a message. And I began to wonder, well, where are all these messages going to? I wasn't a famous speaker that could get on radio. And I found that I began to like writing. Like I would take courses, I would, teach courses in the local Ecuadorian seminary. And I loved seeing my manual by my desk. And I kind of thought, I kind of like to see the fruit of my labor. And, and I have several of these manuals. They're all torn right now. They're just manuals. Some of you might, that might be your goal, just to start with a manual. But I begin to say, I could spend 40 hours on a message. Where would that message go? And yet I could write and I could feel so excited about having something to show for it. So that was part of my testimony. Let's see. And then actually in 1994, I caught the bug for writing. As I was wrestling with, did I just want to preach? I pulled out an old course, and this was a course that I brought to Ecuador with me. It was on cassette tape. And so basically, by the way, Jim, you just said that your first experience was reworked sermons. Unpack that, Jim, real quick.
I would experience someone giving me a lot of information, or several people, about a message, and I would rework it and send it off to a magazine. And when they started sending me money for it, I was hooked.
Okay, so Jim,
I also got a letter on my very first article in Alliance Life. I got a letter from France and from Australia, and that really did it for me.
There you go. There's something that hooks you about influencing people. And I remember that 1994, there was just like, wow, I want to write. I listened to this course. It was a Biola writings course. I went through it and I realized this could be what I can do for a life, is writing for publication, seeing people reading my stuff. And so actually I got back from Ecuador, got into the PhD program. That's where I got to know Michael Crow. And, Peter Wagner was my mentor, and I liked it, but actually I wanted to finish the PhD program so I could write in the real world. And Michael Crow knows that I did that as quickly as possible, the PhD program, because I really wanted to write. I wanted to get my stuff out there. But it just so happened that my degree, the PhD degree on small groups, was the very source of all my books, of the last, 28 books. 28 books. And so that became the source of my other writing. So it wasn't, for naught that PhD. And so that's what I want to challenge all of you to think about, why you want to write and your calling in this whole area of writing. So I've just shared a little bit about that, about my testimony. Let me just stop now and ask you, why do you want to write? Okay, you've shared that. Elaborate a little bit more on that. And why don't you unmute right now and just kind of as I've given my testimony, why are you in this course, and why do you want to write? Jim has shared a little bit. Go ahead, Dale.
Well, some of that's the same thing. I've done working with students for a long time now. I'm kind of an oddity, being in my early 50s and still doing student ministry. And you just have a lot of information, and I wish I would have told myself a long time ago just to write it all down as I began. So, and I'm coming at this a little differently. So my degree is in actually landscape design, but I quit our business to do ministry full time, and so that was 20 some odd years ago. So So it's just in fact, I had a conversation with a student and yesterday, she's like, you really have to write your relationship stuff down. So that's really, I have grandkids now. So I think about that, as far as faith and, do they know who character of God, the value of knowing him. And, it's just really, the older I'm getting, those things weigh a little bit more on my mind.
A legacy, putting yourself down in words, like giving it to your grandkids. I love that. Biography, perhaps. Amari, why don't you share? What about you? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Amari, because you're muted. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I said that ever since I was a child, I have the desire to write. But I have the blessing of working full time into ministry. I am a strategist for the convention. And one of the things that I have discovered is the need for writing, for native speakers writing in Spanish instead of translating. We are very grateful and very blessed with the translated materials. But as you know, Joel, because you speak both languages, there are things that are almost impossible to translate. Yes. So we have a huge need for all kind of writing. And so I hope I can help fill that void somehow. So that's my goal.
Thank you so much. David, can you unmute yourself, David, or should I do that? There you go. Go ahead, David. Yes.
Well, in addition to the reasons that you gave a moment ago, one odd one for me is that I love speaking, and I don't get a lot of invitations. So if I was to write a book on a subject, then people would know I can speak on that subject. So it's odd that I really want to ultimately speak, and writing books is a way, an end around a way to ultimately speak.
Don't you love that, class? I mean, that is just amazing, because as you get your books out there, people are going to say, I'd like him to come. And he's a good speaker too. And so it just sort of dovetails. I love that, David. Very good. Very good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How about you, Roberto?
I think God has gifted me with the gift of teaching. I really enjoy teaching. And as you mentioned, I like to prepare my own material, and I have several materials, Bible studies that I have done. I have worked probably the last 11 years of my life leading small groups. So I have prepared all the weekly meetings, agendas, and everything. So I have a lot of material. And I've been thinking, okay, it's time to pull something of this and transform it into a book. So that's part of the reason I'm here. And also with Amari, the fact that we need more material in Spanish from Spanish speakers to Spanish speakers. So I think because you speak Spanish, I think I'll be doing all my writing assignments in Spanish just for that. But I also agree with Maria that I will also like to learn to write in English. So that's another of the things that it's in my mind.
Yes, and you can write your stuff in Spanish, and I'd be glad to go ahead and read that. Okay, you see some comments. Thank you so much, Jim. Go ahead, Margie.
Well, I have a great imagination, and I'd like to write fiction, but I need the skills. I need skills. I recognize that, but in order to express myself through fiction writing, I have to write. So I keep coming back to writing, which I really don't want to do, to tell you the truth. But deep down inside, I want to do it. Yes. So I procrastinate a whole lot, and I may jot down some things. Now, as far as my PhD work, I'm writing for the next generation of millennials. Yes. Again, African-American millennials and their ethical integrity. Yes. And so I would like to leave that work, it's for the church, and what I'm going to do is compare a Baptist church to a Methodist church, and I'll use the Houston area. That's my goal. But I want to know, are we getting across to them in the Baptist church? Or is there some kind of curriculum I can write? And so I need all these skills, and I need a mentor, someone to help me get there.
Margie,
So,
I wanted to encourage you, even writing fiction, think of it. You could go after the young adult community of African American, and your writing could very well be inspired by the passion that you already have. I just want to
yes.
encourage you that way.
Thank you.
That's such a great encouragement. Thank you so much. And yeah, Margie has really a heart for her people, and just, you know, we were in a whole course together, and that was the focus even of her doctoral study. And that at that point, now she's getting her dissertation at BH Carroll. Her is that a PhD, Margie?
It's a PhD. Yeah, I am a retired administrator, school administrator. So my heart is still toward that age group mostly. I'm a boomer, so I don't know. I think we can leave them something that will help them when they get to this age. I really believe that.
That's tremendous. That is just wonderful. Okay, we haven't heard from Michael. How much can you share? Go ahead and share whatever you can, or would you prefer not to say anything? Go ahead, Michael.
No, I can share. I battled cancer from 1998 to 2003 and 4. And before that, we had already served cross-culturally in Southeast Asia. We were back in the States overseeing servant workers across Asia. And then I ended up with this cancer, and that was a long battle. And one of the things that I found through that is, just there were days when I could just barely survive. And I found that I just had to cling to Jesus just to make it through another day, another hour. And through that, I realized that I've got to know him better. I've just got to know him better. And so I started meditating a lot on the Gospels. But as I did, I realized these stories were so familiar, I wondered if I was kind of misunderstanding what was going on, and wondered if I was interpreting them through my American glasses. And after a while, I started realizing I need to be able to get first century glasses in order to see Jesus better as the way he really was. And so that put me on a journey of trying to understand what first century glasses means, understanding what would be in the back of my mind if I were a Jew in the first century. I'd understand about the local politics, the economic situation, the social currents, the religious streams and things that were going on. And as I began to put that together, I was struck by how radical Jesus was. It just hit me over and over again. He was so much more radical than I realized. I domesticated him through my American glasses. And so that's part of what helped me survive cancer. When I had sorry.
No, you go right ahead. Keep on talking.
So I had 2 stem cell transplants in that process of that battle with cancer. And the second one finally succeeded and defeated the cancer. And then in the next year and a half, we began praying and seeking God about what to do next. And that's when the Lord gave us the vision for J Mentors. And it's a training program for mentoring people through the life of Jesus in light of his first century context. And so we've implemented that in several countries here in Asia. But one of the things I found is that if I give them my skeleton outline materials, which works for me because I know what the bullet point is referring to, it doesn't work for them. They can't remember everything. And so they end up going very shallow with their meditations. And so what I realized, I've got to get this written down in full so that they've got a tool that they can use for the goal of J Mentors is contemplating Jesus, and then applying what that means for our lives today. Jesus in his context, Jesus in my context. So we need the written materials in order to give them the tools so that they can go deep with Jesus and then be able to multiply groups and do that. And that's also why I like your approach, Joel, because you've got a lot with small groups. And J Mentors is built around the concept of doing this in small groups.
What a powerful testimony. By the way, the reason why I was fidgeting here, Michael, was that and I haven't read the book, but have you seen the book Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes?
Yeah, that's one of many that are very helpful resources like that.
I just saw that, and I really wanted to. I just download that via Kindle. But wonderful, brother, what you're doing, and just seeing this through first century eyes. By the way, I really do think, Michael, that after you do this, I would love to see a testimonial book as well about what you went through with the cancer and what Jesus showed you. Is that
I've written up
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've written up a 5-6 page reflection called something about the poem of our lives, and it's about reflection on what it's like to go through cancer and how the Lord met us during that time.
Because I just kudos to Michael, only because I remember I still have his writings about 2003, 2002, when he was just battling. I mean, really just on the deathbed. I mean, one of those on the deathbed. If he didn't get this transplant, then he would be dead, no doubt about it. And so just what he kind of writing about is just the sovereignty of God. What about healing? And some of those things that he wrote about were so touching. I put them in kind of a future book I'm writing on the sovereignty of God. And so just this guy has a kind of almost a near-death testimony. So Michael, I would just love to see you kind of expand on that and so on and so forth.
Thanks, Joel.
I
should get those copies. I should get that from you because you may have things that I've lost.
I have an email format, so I would love to send that to you because I do have all your emails from way back then, and I was going back over.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Good. Let's make sure we do that.
Send it to me.
Yeah, super. Well, I have a lot of them, Michael, so you'll have to ask them. You want me to send all of them? Because remember, you had that newsletter back then. But if you want me to send, me to send all of them, I will do that.
Well, thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, let's get into some other things now. And so, great testimony. Did I miss anybody? Wait, has it now? Helen, have you shared? Oh wait, I'm sorry, Maria. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Maria, go ahead. I just unmuted you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I didn't have a writing interest before this course. I had to say, but right now I have some interest about the spiritual growth and signals, like visible signals that we can have when we grow. Because I think that it's easy to identify when someone is not a believer, or when a person is, like a great Christian, but in the middle we have a lot of stages. And for me, because of personal experiences of people around me, I see that sometimes we are like not very clear about how is a person in his relationship with God, because of their appearance or the external signals are not very clear. So it's a personal interest, and maybe I can be more interested in knowing about that subject if I have a goal about a book.
I love that. And Marie, you'll probably be one that writes in Spanish and then English or both. So I'm really excited about the spiritual realm, and that's great. Now, Helen, you already have your book out. Can you share something about that?
Well, that it's out. I work for the nonprofit ministry now that I lost the weight through, and so have had a platform already. So that's why I went ahead and did self-publishing, but have sold books on Amazon. Like, my goal is to reach, the Lord kind of spoke to me a couple years ago and helped me see that he wants me to reach lots of people. He gave me 1 million people, which I was very overwhelmed with. But soon realized I so resonate with the person that says I'm a speaker, not a writer. I'm like, I am a communicator and worked in the corporate world for 30 years. And so realized all of my years in the corporate world prepared me. All those communications I wrote and trainings I wrote for my employees was just a different kind of writing, but it still helped me. It's experience. I was a published writer. I just, not in the same realm. But anyway, so I have a plan. It's called a Blessed Plan. And so it's just how I am going to reach 1 million people. I have another book that I'm working on I have brainstormed it out and kind of written the table of contents. So it's on rest. I'm kind of the crazy person that didn't know how to rest. And that's one of the things the Lord really showed me, how to do a weekly Sabbath and a quarterly spiritual retreat and fasting. And so all the different spiritual disciplines of resting in God. There's lots of books out there, but I figured I'm going to try one myself. So anybody that knew the old me is very surprised that I am able to rest now. It is part
Praise
of
the Lord. And Helen, let me just be so bold as it seems like you're living the life of the first book that you're right. And so that's tremendous, because I know that that's a tough book to write about and to keep going, in that area. So that's
God was all over it. I mean, it took 4 years. And I remember Joel I think he'll tell us eventually, he writes like 2 books a year. And so one of the things that you impressed upon us is to get started on the next book as soon as you finish the one book, and so that is in my mind. I was asked, I just finished rewriting a book for First Place. We're coming out with new material. So I just rewrote the whole leadership book. So I put that personal book on hold because I just have spent the last couple months completely rewriting a book. So technically I wrote another book, but so it doesn't seem impossible anymore. I think that's the thing, it seemed impossible now, but I don't like to write. It's not my favorite thing. I would much rather talk to you than write.
And that's what we're going to be talking about this course. And it's not easy to write, but we're going to show you some principles that will hopefully be helpful. Thanks so much, Helen. Jim, did you have anything you wanted to add about your writing?
I just had a question for you. I wondered, how many books are you working on currently?
Well, I will get to that, brother, but I appreciate that. Yeah, I will definitely get to that. In fact, thank you, Jim, because I will kind of enter into that realm right now. So you can all see my screen, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now I'm going to be talking about, the course will cover writing and marketing. And I think this is an important aspect. I think one thing that we didn't have as much last time is the marketing aspect. But let's see. So yeah, okay, we got a little bit of, okay. Now, one thing that I'm going to be sharing, by the grace of God, I have sold 620,000 books. I was hesitant to share this with you, but my wife said, just share with them, this, because it kind of shares where you are. I have written 29 books. You can kind of see down there, I'm on the 20, I've just written, 30 books. This new one is out. You might have seen this in the email format, Group Sit Thrive. You'll notice that God has given me a market in Portuguese. That's really coming up. That's my fastest growing market. and Spanish, and then you can see Korean, Indonesian, Filipino, and Hebrew even. I have a book in Hebrew, which is great. But I hope this encourages you to think about other languages and so forth. Now, one thing I'm going to be sharing about is every 3 months I do kind of a reporting on the books I've sold, and I categorize that Kindle, how many I've sold on Kindle. So in this course, we'll be talking about getting you on Kindle. I'm also on Google, these are ebooks, but I'll be sharing with you how to get on Google. And that doesn't have to be a full-on book. That could be that could be an article really, but you can get on Kindle, Google, Apple, we'll be talking about. Now, there are some places where you can just, it's almost like a one size fits all. Smashwords will basically, you can put your book on that entity. It'll get you on all of these other places, Apple, Google, and so on and so forth. Nook is another place that I have my books, and I look at how many have sold. Kobo, and then CreateSpace, though, very user-friendly. This is Amazon, and we'll be talking about how to get on CreateSpace. LSI is Lightning Source. If you can get on Lightning Source, this will help you to get on all the bookstore entities, and so we'll be talking about that. So I want this course to be very practical. We'll be talking about writing, but then how to get on these various entities, and then also how to market. I think that's probably the main thing that I've been learning, is the importance of marketing and how to market and what marketing is all about, and the importance of embracing marketing. So that's been really important lately in my own life. Writing has changed the world. So, I really do believe that it ranks among some of the highest professions. By the way, this document is in the article document that you have. And so, it's very important. Let's see here. A book lasts forever. Many people work hard at a job for 40 years and have nothing to show for it, but memories and pay stubs. Some take their knowledge and write a book. The results is a tangible product for all to see. A book lasts forever, like a painting or a sculpture. I like some of these quotes here. Isaac Asimov said, "I write for the same reason I breathe, because if I didn't, I would die." Do you like that? Ann Taylor says, "If I waited until I felt like writing, I'd never write at all." Isn't that the truth? So some of you are just going to have to you're going to have to do it. Discipline yourself. 13, writing is easy. All you do is sit staring at a blank sheet of paper until the drops of blood form on your forehead. You like that? 14, the worst thing you write is better than the best thing you didn't write. Isn't that, and for many of you, that's what you're doing. You're saying, I just need to do this. 15, books aren't written, they're rewritten, including your own. It is one of the hardest things to accept, especially after the 7th rewrite hasn't quite done it. Writing is rewriting. You need to have a thick skin. Michael Crow knows that. Marjorie knows that. In a PhD program, it's all about criticizing and critique. And that's really, I think, what writing is all about, is saying, okay, my precious words on paper are really not that important. It's rewriting until it's at a place where the world, can see this. So you need to be ready to be edited. All of that is very, very important. Let's just see here. Words can start revolutions. And writing is so important. Authority, this will give you a new authority. David Gainey talks about how his gift is writing, and his gift is speaking, and he wants to write to have more authority to speak. And this is what I found in my own life, is that as I've written, suddenly there are speaking engagements. But people don't know me from Adam. They've never heard me speak, but they've read something. They've read a blog, they've got a book, and suddenly they're asking me to speak. And so speaking has become how I make money. Very few people, by the way, make a living from writing. I sure don't. I'm not in one of those select few. I make my money through speaking primarily, and then through coaching pastors, through a nonprofit. And writing just gets me out there. And that's one thing I learned, by the way, from Peter Wagner. He had a lot of authority, a lot of influence. And I began to ask, well, how was that? Why? Well, it's because of his books, because of his writing. It wasn't his speaking. At the time, he was at Fuller Seminary. And so I just began to understand that was his writing. And I hope that many of you are catching that. Some of you are going to start with Spanish, and you're going to get your words out there in Spanish. But as you do, ever so slowly, it might be an article, might be a blog. People are going to say, wow, that person has something to say. And then they'll invite you to speak. I'm coaching a Southern Baptist preacher in Manhattan. And this guy has a great church. And he just got done with a doctorate of ministry degree. He's writing his first book on small groups and what he's doing. And, that book is just going to open up so many opportunities for what he's doing in his church. I'm really excited for him. The written word lives on. Robert Louis Stevenson defines success this way. I know what happiness is because I have done good work. You'll never be fully satisfied by sales. And I have to admit, every book I feel like a failure because I feel like, wow, I'm only one book away from failure. What if they don't buy this book? And you read about this person who sold 100,000 books in a year. Wait, that's never happened to me. Or, 1 million copies. And you think, I'm nowhere near that. But, you'll never be satisfied by sales. You'll never be fully satisfied by the commentary of others. Success equals faithfulness in doing your best. And I have to remind myself of that. And you'll have to remind yourself, why are you doing this? John Wooden's definition of success is peace of mind, which is the direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable. The average book sells about 99 copies. And so, the most important thing for all of us is to remember that I'm just going to do my best. For some of you, it's to get that article out there or to get the sermon series out there. And it's just writing it. For some of you, it's writing down your biography. And that's a worthy goal for your children. It's just, we all have different measures of success. Many of us write because we're wounded. We want to get a point across. I think of Charles Dickens. His parents were thrown into the poorhouse back there in England because of debt. And when they came out, and by the way, he had to go into an orphanage. And when he came out of the orphanage, when they came out of prison, they didn't seek him out. He stayed in that orphanage, and there was a wound in his soul, and he wrote to really kind of prove that he was worthy of being a person. C.S. Murphy is very similar. He was abused as a child, and so writing was a way of proving himself. He's now written, famous books. He's written several million copies. He was the author behind 90 Minutes in Heaven, C.S. Murphy. I think of my own life. I'm a second born, and I often think that I write, because of being a second born. Second borns compete with the firstborn for parental attention. When the second born discovers how to put crayons to paper, the firstborn displays a completed picture to mother. The second born senses the inadequacy of what he or she has created. The second born decides that to get love, she must do something perfectly. Emotions make life messy, so the second born seeks to suppress them. Logic rules. All things must be dealt with rationally in order to promote perfection. Decisions are made on the basis of emotion. This reliance on logic can make the second born appear heartless. And so I kind of wonder, do I write because I want to prove myself as a second born? I've always been competitive. I've always felt like it's never good enough, So I wonder if writing makes me feel like I'm somebody, you know. Somebody said I lack self-esteem, and I believe that. You know, that so second boys are drawn to writing. It is a safe, rational way to express emotions. Consequently, many novels are written by second-borns. Editors tend to be second-borns who help authors perfect their writings by offering corrections. Of course, these editors tend to be second-born writers. You know, I mean, I don't know why you write, but I know that writing's kind of a safe place for me, and I like writing. So why you're writing is probably the reason for you in this course right now. Some of you are here because you want to reach the next generation, your kids, a legacy. It's simply maybe to teach others, a story, a testimony to share. But what drives you? That's the question. What drives you? In this book, Forest for the Trees, Betsy Lerner talks about the wicked child, you know, that oftentimes, you know, we're afraid to share who we are, and we just kind of we gloss over that. But the more transparent you can be, the more people are going to hear what you have to say. That's why I love Helen's writing, because Helen is really sharing herself in the book. And I love that, and I commend Helen. By the way, can you all hear me?
Yes.
You're still with me. Okay. So the more transparent you are, the better. The more that writing has gone through your soul, the better. The more passionate you are, the better. You need to write on things that you're passionate about. Writing is really just expressing yourself on paper. It's the essence of writing. It's who you are, but unless you've lived through it, people are not going to really pick it up. That's why, you know, I said to Michael, you need to write down some of your thoughts, what you went through, because as I've gone back, as I was rereading some of those things that Michael wrote, I thought, wow, that's powerful. You know, the desperation, and yet how he was crying out to God. And those were the things that people are going to read, because it was gone through it. Now, a lot of what you write will come through your diary, your journal. So right now what you can do is just kind of journal those things, the heartaches, the struggles, the passions, the great things, and those things will come out. You know, I write a lot about small groups, but that was my PhD topic. You know, that was something that has always been a passion. So I ran with that. And so, you know, that's been a topic that I've ran with, and that blogging is still part of that. Facebook, LinkedIn. Some of you will start with Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. That's all part of writing. And so, you know, don't think you have to write the book right away. You know, that doesn't have to be the one size fits all. Oftentimes I start talking about books, but I know Cease Murphy, the famous author of 90 Minutes of Heaven, he says, no, start with articles. Start with articles. Don't start with books. And that is true. Start with an article. Start with a blog. Some of you who are doing your doctoral work, it makes it quite easy, because that's what you should start writing, that things that will then turn up in blogs, Twitter, and then also in books. Very good. Something more permanent. What kind of writing are you doing now? Let me actually switch modes here, put that up on top. So what kind of writing are you doing right now? We've kind of talked about that. You know, some of you have already talked about your writing, and we want to keep on learning about that. The calling to write. You must count the cost. It's not easy to write. It's going to be something that you'll need to go back to. Writers spend a lot of time alone to communicate with others. And to be honest with you guys, it's still costly. You know, the more that I enter into the days where my kids are older, and I have grandkids right now, you know, and the more I realize the importance of being a relational disciple, to kind of get away to write a book, it's more costly now than it was when I was more driven. When I was more achievement oriented, it was easier to do that. But now as I think back, what's life all about? it really takes even more of a cost, accounting the cost. But, you know, unless you're called, you're not going to stick with it. And so I go back to my calling. And by the way, I've already kind of shared in testimony format my own calling. And I go back to that testimony document to rethink why I'm called. I actually go back to that document in my devotional time to remind myself that God has called me to write, because it's not easy. Remember, the best writing is from the heart. You have to have passion. You know, as pastors, that the best sermons are always the ones that come from the heart. You know, what do you have to write about? C.S. Murphy always talks about this, about what do you have to write about? What are those things that just bubble up? Betsy Lerner, as an agent, you know, she writes in this book, she kind of would say, you know, I always have trouble with authors who ask me, what do you think I should write about, Betsy? She always wonders, now, wait a minute, what is that? You know, because she reverts back to, what are those things that bubble up in your heart, author? What are those things that you must write about? And so that's the question I give to you as students. What are some of those things that you just really feel like you want to write about? Those passions. You will stick with those themes. I'm going to be sharing with you soon about some of my writing goals. And it's very easy to talk about those goals or to put down those goals, because I just simply write about, I want to write about those themes I'm passionate about. Often I'm writing to students. You guys are professionals. Some of you are students, but normally I give this course to students, and it's a great time because you can start putting those themes in papers, thinking about future books. And in reality, that's what I did under Peter Wagner. You know, this was my dissertation, and I loved having Peter Wagner as my mentor, because he would say, well, Joel, that's a great tutorial, but I could see that as a book in the future. And really, my small group expertise has come from Peter. People like Peter saying, you know, that tutorial or that article would actually look good in a book. So think about some of those things. I love the book From Good to Great, because that book talks about finding your niche. And those authors said that the best companies, the best leaders, they're not scattered. They find one thing and they stick with that one thing. Let me just cite some quotes from that book. On page 95, the author say, equally important, what you cannot be the best in the world at. That is, the great leaders knew what they could be the best in the world at up here, but they also realized what they could not be the best in the world at. Also, it is an understanding of what you can be the best at. Page 98. Let's see, down a little bit. The great companies focus on those activities that ignited their passions. The idea there is not to stimulate passion, but to discover what makes you passionate. What are the passions that you already have? Those are the things that, as students, I want you to begin to think about. Write them down. Think through that article, that blog, and we'll be talking about how to get them in print. I like what Janet, by the way, who is an agent, she wrote this in 2005, and I said, boy, that's good. I have to put that in my own files. But she said, a common error I see among intermediate book writers, excuse me, let me put you back over here, is if their choice of topics and audience lacks focus. Rather than finding a niche in which they can write several books, writers are all over the map. This causes publishers not to know what to expect from the author next, and doesn't provide a loyal reader base from which to build additional sales with each new release. So, you know, that's one reason why I've kept hitting small groups. You know, what else can I do? Because you already have a base. In fact, you are here now because you've read some of my small group stuff. but it's much harder for me to enter in spiritual disciplines. So hopefully you can write a few things on one topic and then go to another topic. I like what Janet also says in 2008, publishers understand that if an author is carefully building a brand name for him or herself, that author is more likely to see strong sales and sooner than an author who is dipping his or her toes into many different pools of the writing water. Okay? So what is your expertise? What is your passion? What bubbles over? I want you to be thinking about that. I'll ask you more about that in the future. But we'll be discovering your focus. What has God called you to write? What areas are you an expert? Come prepared to discuss this in the next class. In fact, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and just give you a moment now, just as I've talked about your areas of passion. Share one or two areas of passion that come to your mind right now. Unmute yourself. And Margie, what do you think? As you think of a couple areas of passion, what comes to your mind?
Well, I'm just concerned about the state of the African American millennial male. I said millennials. I know that I'm not blinded that we don't have problems. We have some severe problems. I work in the school district. I'm retired now, but I go back, and in high school and middle school, we are having some severe problems, not with all, but quite a few. And I just don't understand what's happening. I look at the older black male, African American male. Perhaps that was something that we did to cause all of this. And so my passion is to let them know, that you are valued by God. And like you say, they have to know it. And I feel as a female, I'm a female mother, perhaps I have a voice. I'm drawn to it. That's my passion. I tried to get away from it, but I keep coming back to the same subject. So I believe that God is working that out in me, and I just need a lot of prayer and guidance. I understand that. That's the passion. Another passion is to write fiction. I'm a Star Wars person, and I'm all of that. So I'm going to tackle that one day. And in fact, I came up with a title 2 years ago that was called Trapped. I wrote one paragraph, and that's it. And these people were trapped underneath the earth, but the whole earth was covered with snow.
Okay.
And so we had the resistance and, all of that. And I was going somewhere with that biblically related. I'm a avid fan of Calvin Miller storytelling.
Oh, I like, yeah, he's good.
He's good.
May the force be with you, Margie.
Yeah, yes, the Holy Ghost.
Margie, I think it'd be great if you could write science fiction that expresses your passion for the African male concerns that you have.
Okay.
If there's some way you could combine that, and then maybe that would create a market that could reach more deeply than you realized.
Science fiction?
Yeah.
Okay. That's writing.
It's fiction. It's a part of fiction. It's writing.
Yeah.
Okay. Think of how C.S. Lewis's fiction has had such a huge impact.
Love him.
Margie, I'm the mother of 2 sons, and I'm a huge science fiction and Marvel, and I'm, I support you. I would read it.
Okay, thank you.
Somebody bought one of Helen's books on this right here and now, so that's great. We would.
Really?
Oh, you did. Yeah, well, she did. Margie bought that, Helen. So
Thanks,
we love to encourage you and support you. Anybody else want to share? I'm not going to, you don't have to share right now. You can share next week. But what's another passion that came to your mind? Would you like to share anybody else? Who wants to unmute themselves and just share a passion? As I was talking, something that's on your heart, there's a passion that you want to share. Go ahead, somebody.
I will.
Yeah, Roberto?
For me, I think in this stage of my life is three things that connect to one another. One is spiritual formation in the terms of spiritual disciplines. That goes in hand with discipleship, which can transfer into a small group setting. So the three are connected. There's slight differences in between each one of them. But recently, because of my stage in my ministry right now, I think those are the things I want to focus on. But also, I mean, a while ago, I had this thing. I have two boys, ages 10 and 8. And I was thinking, how can I teach them theology in a way that is not going to be boring to them? So what I'm doing right now is I am with the Evangelical Free Church of America. So I'm trying to transfer our doctrinal statement into a form that will be easy to them to read, easy for them to read and learn what we believe as a movement and be strong in their faith. So that's another thing I want to write. And right now my impression is how can I transfer these to my kids, and probably that can be something.
Praise the Lord. This is really good. It's good to testify before each other and kind of get that confirmation. I really want to encourage you, Roberto. Anyone else want to share?
I would say mine is also, because I've been doing students for so long, to see that in the American culture, Christian culture, and the disengagement of students as they grow older, especially if they've grown up in a church, and the discipleship and what makes it stick and why. And to recognize, even at a new church I'm at, that the notion that students really do want to know and want to go deeper. They don't want the sugar-coatedness of Christianity. And so I hear that a lot, and I've been passionate about giving them that. So for me, that's it. It's just how to resonate with faith with kids, and give them an avenue to live that out, to not think that they have to wait to be however old they think they need to be able to do something, but that they can do it now. So they're big enough, smart enough, and capable enough. That's one of the little mantras I keep telling them. You just like experience. And so that's for me. That's it. It revolves around student life.
You do have a voice, Dale, and you do have an important message there, and I just really want to affirm that. Somebody else?
I was just gonna say to Dale, as an encouragement, I read a couple of books from an author called Christian Smith. It's called Souls in Transition and Soul Searching. There are two books. It was an extensive research that he did. He was teaching for Notre Dame, and not pronouncing that the English way, the Catholic University, basically.
Right.
But he wrote two books, Soul Searching and Soul in Transition. They are excellent. If you can get a hold of that, it will help you a lot with teens and what happened. There was a study out saying that the kids would abandon the faith once they went to college and everything else. So he explored that in detail, how to work with that aspect and if that is true or not. And there is a lot of misinformation about it. Kids really stick or have the tendency to stick with what they learn as they were growing up.
Sure.
But that was a side note. I second what Roberto shared earlier about Hispanics. That seems to be true in Venezuela and here too. And a tremendous lack of spiritual formation and leadership. I guess that's a natural byproduct. You don't have natural spiritual formation, then you don't have leaders. And that's one of the things that I struggle with as we try to find church planters and pastors and people that have the training to lead. We don't have it. So I look forward to get some of your writings, Roberto. Maybe we can use it in Latin America, like we use Brother Joel's writing.
We do. There's a great dearth of Latin American Spanish writing, and I really am excited about that. We're going to be moving on to the next topic. And by the way, I'm not going to be finishing the second PowerPoint. We'll do that next time. We have a half hour more. Do you have any questions about what we've covered thus far? questions or comments before we move on to the next PowerPoint. You might just want to stretch as well. Feel free to stretch. We've been sitting for quite a while, but if you have a question here, feel free to raise it. Question or comment. I will be sending you this recording, but it will be unlisted, and I could also be careful about even sending the unlisted version to Michael, but it's totally unlisted. It's off of Google or anything else. I make sure of that, and but I will. Okay, super. I will send this to you. Okay, well, good. If there are no other comments or questions about what I've covered thus far, I'll just move on to the next PowerPoint and just, probably get a quarter of the way through. Remember, we're meeting again on June 12th. So just make sure that's in the calendar, June 12th, same time, 4 p.m. We'll have 3 more of these sessions, and we'll just go from there.
Joel, can I?
Yes.
I just wanted to, I know we already went over the books and the content to read for this course, but
Yes.
I was one of the people that did all the reading last time and submitted my reports, and it made a huge difference. And so I know it's a lot of work, but I just want to encourage you all to read all the books that Joel has picked for us. They're very, very helpful, and several of them, like I said, I've used over and over again. And so I just wanted to put a plug in for doing that work that goes with this, because if we only meet once a month, it's almost like you could forget, oh, I didn't read those books, or I didn't, so I just wanted to encourage you.
Great plug. I love that. That's a very good plug. And when Jim gets back on, I want him to give a plug for, okay, hey, Jim, any kind of thoughts that you might want to add to the course, and just encouragement to the students?
Yeah, I appreciated what you had to say about starting small with blogs and even Facebook posts that are well written. That can get a lot of traction. And I've published a lot of dozens and dozens of articles in Christian magazines, and that polished my ability to write. So, and just the stuff I've picked up in your course has just been very helpful to me. So I want to encourage these people, the stuff they're talking about, like Michael's personal journey into cancer. I wrote to him there in the chat that I believe that would be very helpful to the people I know who have cancer.
And Jim, your testimony partly is that you wrote articles or had several articles out there, and you wanted to write, but it just seemed like you were hindered. And then you just suddenly started getting your stuff out there. Share just a little bit about that. What was some of the resistance?
Yeah, I don't really know what the resistance was. An article and a sermon are about the same amount of words, and so I was very familiar with, having been a pastor for over 30 years, with producing that amount of content, but stringing it together into a book-length thing seemed challenging for me. But I was very encouraged to discover I could actually pull that off.
Once you started doing it, now you're just on a roll. Would you say that?
Yeah, I've got about 11 things I'm working on right now.
Okay, and you do have 2 books out, Jim?
Yeah, I have 2 books. I've published a collection of jokes under another name, and I've written a couple of books for grandchildren, children's picture books. But 2 books that I would say are mine. Yeah.
And so Jim is basically just being very humble about this, but he he definitely has some wonderful things to say, and I'm actually trying to, just a second here, how can I get out of this screen? Hold on here, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to get out of, Helen, what am I doing wrong here? I actually wanted to get on the internet.
So I think you just hit escape, because on your PowerPoint, you're going to hit escape, and that'll get you out of that window.
That's right. I do want to do that, and just to say that I'm really excited about Jim and some of his work. You can just see here on Amazon. I'm just going to go and just kind of boast a minute in Jim, and this just kind of came slowly and surely. I've known Jim for so long now, but there was a lot of resistance, and then just suddenly he just started getting some of the stuff out there, and now he's just on a roll. There's 4 works, and this is his book out there. He's on Kindle. He's, you can just see the paperback. He's got volume 2, and so kudos to you, Jim. Good job.
Cool picture too.
Yeah, really good.
Cool
really.
Cover. Awesome.
Very good.
Thank
Jim.
you. A pastor friend did it for me.
Who?
Okay.
A pastor friend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So that's just, that's just an encouragement there. And we're going to show you how in this course. So believe that you're going to really, really grow in this. So great. Let's just now get into some more teaching. Okay. So up here, to start with, I just have some questions that I am not going to ask right now, but if this were a longer course, I would be asking about the books. My encouragement to you, just read all that you can, and I believe these books, as Helen has said, will really help you. And if you can do the homework, even better. I will grade that homework. And if you have any questions about that, I can answer that. We can dialogue via email and so on and so forth. Okay, so just starting off with PowerPoint number 4, slide number 4, you have to stick with it. One common acronym is BIC, butt in chair. And I love this because really that's what it's all about. It's just sticking with it, getting your butt, putting it in that chair and not leaving. Lately, actually, I've kind of had an epiphany of sitting still for like 30 minutes and then giving myself a break of 15 minutes. It's hard. It's difficult. But if I can just stick with it, things will start coming out. My mind will become unglued and uncluttered, and I'll begin to put things on paper. And so BIC and share is very important. I like what somebody says, true writers don't really live. They're always living the book's life. You're kind of thinking about, okay, what could I say in this article or this blog? And as you get into the writing vision, as you're preaching that sermon, you can start saying, hey, I could write a book on this. You see, that's why Chuck Swindoll, in my opinion, became so famous, because he would take his sermons and he could just somehow see beyond the sermon. And so he would do a series and suddenly it would be a book. And so he benefited from all the research he did in his sermons. And hopefully that could ring a bell for some of you. And as you then begin to walk through life, you're going to put these things in book format or in blog format, article format. Every situation is a possible story, illustration, or quote. Some writers always have their trusty notebook, their iPad, and they're writing down things that they could write about, or stories they could put in something they've already written about. Writing habits, amount of hours each day, number of words. Some writers talk about hours, some do words. I think it was Stephen King he had a goal of 2,000 words every day. And boy, was Stephen King prolific, of course, for the devil, but still he was prolific. And now I have found it's better to do 2 hours. So I have an amount of hours each day. And sometimes I don't even stick with that, to be honest with you, but it just keeps me in that discipline of writing. I like hours better because in the early stage of writing, you're just going to get a lot of words out. In the later stages, you're trying to clarify those words, so you're not going to need as many words, right? But in the first part, you're just trying to get words on paper. So for me, I try to do 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And when I'm doing seminars and so forth, I don't count those times as my writing day. So I won't do any writing during my seminars. And even coaching, I don't do 2 hours. So that's worked for me. Think about it, what is best for you. It could be a half hour. It could be an hour. I don't know. By the way, did somebody just have a chat? Did somebody say something in chat? I lost it.
Yes, Jim Corley, I wrote that I love the idea you've mentioned before about vomiting on the page and just getting the words out there.
No doubt about that. It's vomiting. Writing is a job. In fact, no, this wasn't actually the vomit quote. I wanted to actually get to the vomit quote because there's actually the same person who wrote this also wrote about vomiting on the page. And I think, Jim, I'm actually going to get there, but because really it's just simply getting words on paper and just doing it. But right now, let's just talk a minute. I'll get to that. But right now we're talking more about writing as a job. And Cease Murphy says, I start before 8 a.m. and work hard all day. At 4 p.m., I shut down for the day unless there's something crucial that has to be done. After that is my reading time until dinner, and from then on, it's purely family stuff. I turn off my writing by noon Saturday and don't get back to it until Monday. Now, Cease Murphy is, in my opinion, a professional writer. He's a full-time writer. He makes his living from writing. He has written some 13 million books or sold 13 million books. I'm nowhere near here. I'll never be at this point. But what I like about Cease Murphy, he approaches writing as a job. And really, until we do that, I don't think we're going to get words on paper. Until we just say, I am going to spend an hour a day. I am going to spend 2 hours a day. I'm just going to do this. One famous preacher wrote a book about how he gets things done. And his whole thing was just doing a little bit each day. An hour here, and then suddenly after a year, you have completed that goal. So you're going to have to be goal-oriented and make time for writing. It's just not going to come unless you do a little bit each day. You're never going to get to that article or that blog or that biography or whatever you want to do. Okay, so writing as a job is important. Some people wear business suits just because people think that writers live in pajamas and they never get out of those pajamas. It's just not true. Isn't that right, Jim?
It's not true. Not at all.
Thank you, Jim. You actually wear regular clothes, right, Jim?
Yeah. I don't get to wear a suit very often.
Okay, very good. Helen, do you want to comment on that?
Well, it's funny. I work from home, so I could be in pajamas on the bottom and no one would ever know. But I don't know. I just have to get all dressed up because I do this all the time. So I don't know. But you can write anywhere. I don't know. I think I would be okay with living in pajamas, to be honest.
I don't do the suit thing. I'm with you. Right now I have shorts on and so on and so forth. So I agree with you 100%. You just do it. That's what we're talking about. Just do it. Writing must become like a business, though, if you're going to get this out there. We've heard from Michael Crow. He has things we must hear. We've heard from Marjorie. Marjorie, I really do believe that the African-American community needs what you have. You just need to do it. But unless you do it, it's not going to get out there. And so that's going to be one big thing. Good to have an idea of the books you want to write in the future. Now, this is one thing that's been important for me are my goals. And I've been more radical than many, but you can see my goals here. Back in the day, back in 1997, I was so fired up on writing that I had a goal of 2 books per year. And, and I did that forever. And so you can just see my goals here. And then 1999, 2 books. I continued with 2 books until 2007. And then I read Wild and Heart, and I thought to myself, boy, this guy had a really good book, Wild and Heart. And then so I went to 1 book per year. And I kind of thought I want more quality. But again, the goals here, notice on the right-hand side were the articles, 6 articles. And so the goals kind of drove me. Now, I have to admit, I'm more of a goal-oriented person. On the Enneagram, achievement is my high personality type. So, this is probably way over the top for most people, but these goals truly do map out where I'm going. And why I'm really sharing this with you is because I have future goals that I want to write about. You'll notice that these are my goals that I have all the way to 2041. So, Jesus could take me anytime, but you'll notice I have a book out here in 2038, Marriage Advanced Training, 2036, North American Shift. These are just themes that have come on me in my journey. Let's see. Oh, God, I better hide that one. But you'll notice here, sovereignty of God, trials. That's a big theme of mine, the sovereignty of God. Sovereignty of God, general specific. Now, I already have a draft book on the sovereignty of God. I have 500,000 words on the sovereignty of God. I'm going to divide that into 3 books. But in the future, this will come out. So as you live life, you want to just write these things down for future, either articles, books, dreams. And so, see, these are things that I'm going to be writing about. And so now where I'm at right now in this journey is this book. Sell Books with Agley, 2016. And so I hope that this kind of helps you either to think about articles, blogs, short stories, biography, but you do have something to write about. You do have passions in your life. Write them down, put them down. People need to hear these things. And as you get those out there, nowadays on the internet, it's fairly easy to get things out there. And people are going to say, wow, that person knows something about the theme that I'm going through. I really want to have that person speak here, or I want to order that person's book or whatever. That's one thing I understood about C. Peter Wagner. His authority came from his writing. And so my prayer is that you would have goals and you would think about these goals, even though they're far different, for example, than what I'm doing here. Okay, let me just get out of there. And let's see, writing dreams about tomorrow. These are not written in stone. I'm constantly changing those books that I want to write about. I'm always adjusting what you just saw. But you have to have courage to write. Concerns before you are published. You have to state your opinion. People are going to find out about who you are. I'm still not at the point of a C.S. Murphy where I can just pour out my soul. I really admire Helen because in her book, she really has poured out her soul, and I admire that. I don't think I'm there. C.S. Murphy talks about his abuse as a child a lot, and he says, unless you can do that, most people are not going to really hear you. So, I really do believe it takes courage to write because you always feel somewhat like a failure. How come people are not buying my book? Oh, that book really didn't go anywhere. Or, so basically to get people, it's easier not to write. It really is. It's easier not to be published, and so.
Joel, can I say something about that?
Yes, please.
I was going to say the first chapter of my book was the last chapter that ever got written because I didn't want to write that chapter. But after I hired a writing coach to help me, and then he kept saying, there's something missing, there's something missing. And then I submitted the book to my editor for the first, I hired an editor, and she and I had our first meeting. And after, she's like, well, there's this big gap. And so they basically made me write the first chapter for the reason you just gave, so that people would relate to me and understand, even though I look like I have it all together, I'm just as screwed up and have, like, you know, the crazy life that we all have that, you know, is behind the curtain that you don't show. And so I just wanted to say it was the hardest chapter I wrote, but it was the last chapter I wrote. And by then I'd already spilled so much guts on the floor. It was just one, you know, was okay. But I had my sisters help me. I had to get permission from my mom because my mom was still alive. So, you know, it was hard, but it was, I think you're right. People tell me they see that little girl, Helen, and they relate to her. And that was important.
Helen, and just to kind of fill in some of your story, you were overweight, but what you were sharing in that first chapter is why you had gained pounds.
Right. So all the things that I was hiding from, the drug abuse, the alcoholism, the dysfunctional family that I came from, I was the firstborn. So I have the perfectionist tendencies, but it comes from an alcoholic. It comes from growing up in an alcoholic family. So.
Right. And so I love that book. I read that book to give a recommendation. I'm thinking, oh, this is great. And yet that was the hardest chapter that she wrote. So I'm not sure if all of you are going to have to write about that. Cease Murphy, he writes mainly about those things, you know, and he's a famous ghostwriter. So as he ghosts for other authors, he has to get those authors to share their guts, to share their real self, you know, because we don't want to do that. So you have to share who you are, and people have to know that it's gone through you if it's going to mean something to them. So that's a concern. And then really there's another concern. Will they buy the book? I mean, you have seen that I've sold quite a few books, but I will have to tell you, as each book is kind of like, oh no, this book, and really, especially in the beginning, people are not buying this book. I feel like a failure. How come more are buying it? You know, and you feel that, and you know, and you put a lot of money into that book, and you've got editing, and this is your baby, and then, you know, you feel like, oh, people aren't buying in this, and then people will criticize, and they'll send you that review on Amazon that you don't like, and so it's hard. And remember, one of the greatest hindrances is apathy. It's not so much that you've written the book; it's that nobody really cares. And by the way, today, anybody can write a book. That's where we are technologically. You know, anybody can put a book on Amazon, on Kindle, and we'll be sharing with you how to write that and how to do that. But the hardest thing is to get people to buy the book, get people to read the book. Even in our age of, you know, over information, people are overstimulated. So really, that's what we're going to be talking about, you know, giving free material. Don't worry so much if somebody steals some of the stuff in your book. You know, there's a book out called Free. They're talking about giving your stuff away free. In fact, that's one way to promote, is just giving a lot of free copies out. So at least you'll be known, because one of the greatest hindrances is apathy. People don't really care. And it's just the truth. And you have to be a marketer. You have to be a promoter. You have to share. And that's one of the hardest things for me is marketing. For most writers is marketing. In the later stages of this book, we'll be talking a lot more about marketing. I'm actually very excited about marketing now, but it's one of the hardest things. You have to be a marketer because really nowadays anybody can get published. And the hardest thing is for people to actually know that you're published, to buy your book, and so on and so forth. Making money via writing, there's not much money out there. I'm going to close with this. This is actually the statistics. A company that in 2004 tracked the sale of 1.2 million books in the U.S., same is true in 2008. Of over 1.2 million books, 950,000 books sold fewer than 99 copies. So the average book in the United States sells about 500 copies. Almost 80% of the books tracked sold less than 99 copies. So if you can sell 100, 105, 110, you're in the 81 percentile. Now that's an encouragement to me when a new book comes out and it sells, like my last book, Youth in Cell Ministry, that sold in the beginning maybe 50 copies, 80 copies, and yet these statistics really encourage me. Okay, hey, it's not doing so bad. More than 95% sold less than 1,000 copies. So if you can, and if you can get 1,000 copies, you're way up there. These figures are skewed because there are some incredible multi-million, sales out there, as the famous authors, and that's what skews these statistics because they're mixed in with all the other books. So I hope that that's an encouragement to you that as you start, whether articles or blogs, everybody's in the same boat, and you just have to get yourself out there. And marketing, I'm going to be putting a lot more emphasis in marketing, but we have a lot to cover. I'm really excited about this course. We've covered a lot of ground already. We only have 3 more minutes, and I hope that you've benefited. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. Have you got something out of the course thus far today? Can I get a thumbs up instead of an amen?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm encouraged to hear what other people are aspiring to write, and it's inspiring to me.
Okay. Jim, are you just throwing that out as saying you'd like to hear in the future via email or right now?
I'm saying I want to read some of the stuff people are talking about writing. I would love to see Michael's book on cancer, Margie's book on the African American male. I have some friends that I'd like to see reading that kind of stuff. Anything by Helen's going to be good.
No doubt about that. So we just have a lot of potential here. I'm going to pray, and the next, I'm going to pray right now. In fact, let me just pray, and then I want to make sure that I give you a homework assignment. So after I pray, I'll get to that homework assignment. Father, I pray you'd bless this time now, and that you'd bless each student, give them grace to do some reading as much as they can. And I pray that, Lord, you bring us back on June 12th. You bring us back encouraged. Thank you for the participation thus far. Thank you for each person, God, that makes this class exciting. Lord, I just thank you for the Spanish community. God, I just really sense a lot's going to come out from the 3 or 4 Spanish speakers here in this course. God, we need more information in Spanish. We give you the glory and praise in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Before we leave, guys, let me just get to the last PowerPoint, and that is, okay, let's see here. Okay, we go to the last one, and it does have homework. Okay, so yeah, for the next time, bring to the class your writing goals. It might just be an article. It might just be, you'd like to see in a year a draft form of a book. Or it might be in 2 years you'd like to have something out there. But I'd like you to be specific. What I don't want you to do is to over-exaggerate. Like in 3 months, I'm going to have a fully published book. Really, so I want this to be doable. Kind of just envision by June 12th, and we'll start with this. What are some of the goals, the practical goals that you could see as you ruminate over this course, okay? So we'll stop there, and God bless all of you, and we'll see you on June 12th. God bless all of you.
Should we tell everybody how to leave, or are you just going to end the meeting and we can all just zip away?
I will just end the meeting, okay?
Yeah.
Sounds good. God bless all of you.